Nobody better to talk college basketball and Big East basketball than John Fanta. Welcome into the Big East Energy Network's weekly show. John Fanta is a sportscaster and journalist who covers college basketball and the NBA, most known for the Big East basketball coverage and his coverage on the Field of 68 network formerly. He's known for enthusiasm, versatility. He has worked at Fox Sports, CBS, NBA TV, and in August 2025, he joined NBC Sports and Peacock as the lead play-by-play announcer for Big East basketball. But that's the work. John Fanta, the man, is much more. You can't find a better person in all of sports media. You just can't. I dare you to find me a better person than John Fanta. His passion for Cleveland sports, his love of Big East basketball, the conference that introduced us to the celebrity that is John Fanta. Who could forget the slipping and falling on New York City with his Big East mic, and just how endearing he is to fans and other media folk alike. The heart and soul of the Big East. It was only a matter of time before he joined a network dedicated to his passion. So without further ado, we bring you John Fanta. All right. Without further ado, we bring in John Fanta. John, thanks for joining us on Big East Energy Network on the weekly show. I'm going to put up a graphic here in a second to talk about the state of the Big East. But before I do that, what have been your initial surprises and just kind of like head scratchers so far here in the first month or so of the season?
Well, it's great to be with you guys, and it's hard to believe that Big East basketball, that conference play, is going to rev up on Saturday with Providence and Butler, that we're already here. I think that my biggest takeaways have been that some of the programs that we thought would be in the upper echelon of this league, a couple of which have been in the upper echelon of this league, have had historically rough starts. And I would point to Marquette and Creighton, who have more than pulled their weight in this conference and have supplied this league with units, bids, Sweet 16 trips, consistent programs in college basketball. And it's really something to see both of them as down as they have been. I think when you look at a Georgetown, who was supposed to turn a corner this year and thought they had the pieces to do it, appeared to be doing it with wins over. It was a road win at Maryland. It was early in the season. Maryland is in a down year themselves, but Georgetown still won the game on the road. And then they beat Clemson, who's a good team, I think a tournament team, and they give all that goodwill back down in Orlando. I think when you look at this league, Providence has not been good enough, and the loss to Virginia Tech seemed to have spiral effects because then they go to San Diego and just two empty trips. So for me, I would say when you look at the state of this league, you're looking at a couple of teams like Villanova, Butler, and Seton Hall, where do I think that the Big East can find a way to get 4 teams in the NCAA tournament? I do, but the problem is, and it's a little bit similar to last season, is in terms of meat on the bone, an SEC, a Big 12, or a Big 10 team that hasn't yet really moved the needle for their resume is going to have double-digit number of opportunities to do so in January and February. And in the Big East, right now, you get, I'm going to say, 5 to really move the needle, and I'll include a trip to Villanova, who I think will be a tournament team. And we can get to that. But I think they are one of the more underrated teams in America. I think people aren't talking about them because they haven't been to the tournament a couple years and they haven't beaten anybody yet. Yeah. But I do think they're capable of beating somebody. And I'm sure we'll get to that. But overall, it's been a disappointing start to the season. There's no question about that. And the league did not accomplish what it set out to do in non-conference play. You know, if you were looking for me to come on here and say the sky is falling, it's doomsday, the world is ending, I wouldn't go that far on things, because I think college basketball in this day and age is incredibly random. And I think there is a world where a really good coach could just miss on the pieces that they evaluated, and their staff could just miss on the pieces they evaluated. And when you're speed dating, it could blow up in your face. And I think then we get into, okay, well then, what are the consequences of that? Well, certain coaches are fighting to show why they should be the coach. Other coaches, they're good coaches, but they might have just swung and missed. And there's a couple of good coaches in this league that I think in the moment right now, they'd look at their situation and say, man, I probably could have handled that speed dating moment a little bit differently. So that's where I'm at. UConn can win the national championship. St. John's has some stuff to figure out. I think that they will. But overall, the league has not met the expectations that it had.
Is there anything, John, that you can point to? We obviously have this up here with the net and and what is that? And then the Ken Palm rankings. Like, obviously, I'm a Creighton guy. We can just stop. We don't even need to talk about where we're at right now, John. I know. Yeah. Hopefully next weekend you're here. We'll be able to hash some of that out. But is there anything besides that? Because we put up a little poll actually on our network, and it's coming back that the people think that Seton Hall is the most surprising storyline thus far in the league. Now, you're a Seton Hall, obviously, grad and have so much love for that program. Can you talk a little bit about them and really, like, do you think the fans of Seton Hall believe, or is it still a wait and see? Like, where's that program at there?
I think the fan base is believing, and they'll fully believe if Seton Hall can handle business in a quad 4 game against Rutgers on Saturday. You have to come out, and if you're the team that you say you've been, which I believe that they are, and I'll tell you why. This team defensively, Casey and Mark, is outstanding. Mm-hmm. Not good, not great. I genuinely believe they're one of the best defensive teams in the country. And for those who don't believe me, you just have not watched them play, because you can't watch that team play and say otherwise. And it doesn't matter who they've played. They played a USC team that has 1 loss. A lot of people are like, well, blown call and whatnot. It was a really good college basketball game.
Yep.
And if you watch that game, I saw 2 teams that could that be a 7-10 game in the NCAA tournament? Yeah, probably. And I see a team that has now gotten better on the offensive end of the floor. Yeah. But this is a great example of what we were just talking about, Casey. Is Shaheen Holloway a bad coach? No. Everyone's like, well, Seton Hall didn't have enough money last year. Well, okay, they did not. They did not. They're still spending less than many of the other schools that we're talking about that are below them here, but they hit it. They started evaluating last January. Sometimes you're a victim of your own success where you get to it too late or whatnot. They were like, we got to start mapping this out. This can never happen again. You win 7 games in a Big East school 2 years in a row. Sometimes you're out. Now, Shaw's a little different because he's a Seton Hall guy, but he hit on A.J. Staden-McCray, who was a stud at Samford and now has been able to really regain that momentum. He hit on Bud Clark, who's a conductor of a point guard. Not perfect, but he fits Shaheen in his style. Najai Hines, he hit on him, and it clicked. Stephon Payne is physical and a really good player. Mike Williams, another guy who, kind of gets lost in the shuffle, if you will, at his prior place, but has been a really good shot maker for them and has delivered time and again. So I am buying Seton Hall. And I just think when you can get a Mike Williams from LSU and a Trey Parker from NC State and a guy like Staden-McCray to me has been one of the better players in the league. Guys that were motivated, chip on their shoulder mentality, they're fully bought in. They evaluated correctly. And I think a lot of people around the country are not treating them seriously because they won 7 games last year. But there's nothing the same about it except the head coach. Everything else changed. So when you're holding something against them, this group has no idea what last year's group did. So I think they're for real. The biggest thing for them is going to be, can they, when they play some of these bad metrics teams on the road in January and February, can they win those games and avoid a back-breaking resume loss? Because their resume's now rich with wins, but they look the part of a team that's going to be a factor. I don't think they're going anywhere. I think they're a top 4 team in the league.
No, I think you're spot on. As Casey and I will be in a text, and I'll be like, "Did you watch that game last night?" He's like, "No, dude, it was like at midnight." I'm watching Seton Hall like midnight in the Maui or wherever they're playing, because they're also a fun team, John. Like it's a fun watch. Like they're everywhere. To your point, they're playing great defense. They remind me of the St. Peter's team that went to the Elite Eight, but with better athletes, and they're kind of in that Shaw mold. But the question I wanted to ask on not just them, but other teams, whether it's Villanova or if Providence can get their shit together, or whoever, Butler's another one. In that mix of they're playing the resume between a Big 12 or an ACC or a Big 10 school. What do you think that the criteria is going to be? The backbreak, is it losing to like a Rutgers? Is that going to be the bugaboo that's going to get them, that's going to leave a team out? Because if you're looking at Big East, they're probably going to have more wins than, say, a 17 win. Let's just use where you're at, an Ohio State team that's maybe on the bubble versus a 22 win Seton Hall team, but maybe the resumes are similar. Is it going to be those quad 4 games, or is it going to be the lack of opportunities in quad 1s?
Well, first things first, if a Seton Hall wins 22 games and is left out of the NCAA tournament, the Big East should absolutely have an emergency meeting with everybody involved, because a 22-win team in this league should never be kept out of the tournament. 20 wins? Yeah. I mean, look, maybe you get left out because you didn't do enough. Seton Hall's already got 9. So, they should have 10 after Saturday. And then at that point, you shouldn't just go 10-10 in this league. You should go 11-9 or 12-8 in this league at worst, because let's face it, there's just, like I said before, there's just a couple of programs that are having a tough year. What's it going to come down to, though, Mark, from a protocol standpoint with the committee? Well, the Big East has 6 quadrant 1 wins collectively.
Yeah.
UConn owns 3 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, the data point is there, right there. So it's not like you have to be able to collect quad 1 wins. Now, are there still some chances? Well, at this point, a limited number, but yes, there are. I would say Villanova is the team I zone in on. They have Michigan on the road. I don't think anybody's let's be honest.
No.
Here. Michigan's been as good as anybody in the country. So Villanova has nothing to lose and everything to gain. And remember, Villanova played BYU on a neutral opening night and played them tight.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good sign. You play Michigan, if they're competitive in that game, I would actually consider that to be a good sign. You play Pittsburgh and Wisconsin. If Villanova, they should beat a Pittsburgh team that's really reeling. If Villanova beats Wisconsin on a neutral, the game is in Milwaukee, so it's a pseudo Wisconsin home game, but it is in Milwaukee. It's not in Madison. If Villanova were to win that game and put up a quality league season, which I think that's a given. Like, I think they're going to have a good league season because I like Bryce Lindsey. I like a Caden Lewis in his growth. Tyler Perkins is a shot maker. Duke Brennan rebounds the hell out of the ball. Like, I think that for me, for Villanova, they're the team that if I point to a team and said they could beat St. John's, they could beat Connecticut and Philadelphia, I think that they could do that. But you have to get quad 1 wins. So, Mark, if Ohio State has 17 wins, as we open it up here, they won at Northwestern on Saturday. Even Northwestern, who I don't think is a tournament team, has a net of 73. That's a quad 1 win.
Right.
Whereas right now, if a Villanova or a Butler or a Seton Hall goes to Omaha, it's a quad 2 road game. Yep. And those are kind of treated by the committee as, Now, if you lose by 2, if you win by 2, your net by formula, should not like seismically drop. But there's worse cases of that. I mean, right now, Marquette at home, if I'm understanding this correctly, I got text this earlier, is a quad 4 game.
It is.
You can't have multiple quad 4 games. So that's you got to look at the data. The data tells us the answers. And the data is only 6 quadrant 1 wins. You have to win games in November and December to get bids in the NCAA tournament.
But I think what's interesting what you said there, John, is normally you would think in this league you're going to have your opportunities in January, February, and March to improve that your net ranking. And certainly you will. But because there's going to be so many more quad 3, now even a couple of quad 4 games you're going to play in league that Big East hasn't really dealt with that much in the past. That's why I'm concerned, because again, you just said, let's just say that's correct with the Marquette being a quad 4 game. Are you kidding me? You're playing Marquette and it's a quad 4 game. It's what I've referred to as a landmine. You're going to come to Creighton, which, John, I know you have a lot of respect for this place and how hard it is to play
absolutely.
here. You're going to come to Creighton and it's not going to, you win here. It's not a quad 1 win on your resume. Like, that's mind blowing in many cases for this league. And so that's what worries me the most, because you're just going to be faced with so many more games that become must wins, not because you're trying to get into the tournament, because you're trying not to play yourself out of the tournament by losing them. So that's going to be interesting to see. But we talked a bit about Marquette. I want to get your take on this because we've talked about it one-on-one. Go ahead.
One thing I would say for a moment is, though, like this sport is BS crazy. So if you get into, like, I do think there's a sector of social media that's not small, that's like, okay, dead.
Right.
You know, like, that's it. It's over. Disband. You know, add this team, add that team. Okay, that team doesn't control what another team did this year. And remember, and it has been worse this year because Marquette doesn't have the quality wins it had last year. It was able to, but I would just say to people, like, last year was ugly throughout early portions, and the 5 teams heard their name called on Selection Sunday. Remember, they have to field 68 here, and it is a long season. So I would just say to people, like, you know, I know it's easy, and I know it does well on the internet when people just go and explode on things, and I get it. And you guys do a great job with what you're building. I think a lot of what you do, you do rationally. Casey, you know it well. Mark, you know it well as well. But like, it's this I do think sometimes when crap hits the fan, it does naturally force anybody to say, all right, how am I going to change this? The problem is you got a couple of programs that are just too proud to have a follow-up season like this. And so I would just say, like, I wouldn't just say yes, definitively, like, this is a sign of any nail in a coffin or anything like that. But the Big East has some things to figure out. They had worse things to figure out in like 2011 and 12, to be candidly honest with you.
Yeah.
So I'm not like, I know you guys aren't holding the funeral, but I do feel like some people are. And it's just like, let's try to be rational with how we assess things here, which I think this has been.
Yeah. I think Mark's been preaching that for weeks about that. And I'm definitely more on the negative side, but I think you can understand why with my team versus his team. But before
back though,
I know. Well, I mean, again, Mac has shown. I mean, he's going to get it figured out. But before, I know Mark's going to ask something, but I wanted to get you on Marquette to just talk for a second. Like, at what point? Because here's what's going to happen, right? They're not going to have a very, very good year. People are going to, you can't do the non. I'm actually kind of changing my mind on that, John, as more of a believer in building your program with freshmen and supplementing it with transfers. Because I think what we've seen is so many teams have just built a brand new team this year and like, oh, wait, well, Rick Pitino's the coach. They're going to just kill it from the – no, like, it's hard to do that. Mac's dealing with it now. Shaka's got so much conviction in what he's doing. So I don't think he's going to abandon ship on this. But you also have to step back sometimes and go, am I doing this correctly? At what point do you think he has to look at that and say, all right, I might need to change some things?
If the people funding the team say things haven't changed.
Right.
Great answer. All right.
Well, that's with now there's a give and take there. I mean, we're talking about someone who, since he came into this job, and let's face it, Marquette's a great program, but Mark and Casey, when he took over, the program was not in a good place.
Right.
You know, Steve Wojciechowski just did not do a very good job there, and they were not in a place where they were ready to be a real factor in this league. And in year one, he won 11 league games. Over the 4 years, he's 55-24 in this conference. and he's got a winning percentage of close to 700 at Marquette. So he's afforded this this year.
Agreed.
And I know nobody wants to hear that, but he is, because he's a really good coach.
Yeah.
He's a really good coach who's got a great culture and who's got an elite energy about him. That being said, it's impossible to do what he's tried to do. And I give him a ton of credit for what he's built at Marquette, but I think it's impossible. And
can I ask you a question around that, John? Because
it's not because of him, it's because of the sport.
Yeah, and let me ask you this question, because you're a baseball guy, you're an Indians fan. So, like, and I'm right about that, correct?
Oh yeah, huge.
Okay,
huge.
All right, so right, so like when you think about it, because we're entering an era, and we already are, of this kind of like money ballification of college basketball, like who evaluates best, who spends the money wisely, et cetera, et cetera. Could you see a Marquette, because you said you think it's impossible, which it likely is, but a team like Cleveland still competes with teams like the Yankees and the Dodgers based off of their payroll. So like my question to you is, do you think there's ever going to be a rational ability for Shaka to say, okay, we're building almost like the way a small market team does in baseball, where we have all these prospects, and by the time they're juniors and seniors, we're going to be an elite team and play for Big East championships and national championships. We're just not going to do the pay for, the Japanese players to come over and supplement my pitching staff the way the Dodgers do, or boom, I get a free agent like the Yankees. Like, do you think that there's an argument for that? Or do you think it still has to be the culture plus, like the Casey's talking about, like Dan Hurley's doing at UConn?
There's an argument for it, but there is a money ballification of still being able to supplement a pitcher for a 1-year, $10 million deal in baseball.
Sure.
Or, we're going to pick him up on an option year, and, we'll figure it out on the back end. And here's the thing. Marquette, I understand there's been some rumors here and there and whatnot. There's always rumors when teams aren't winning. Here's what I do know. You look up top budgets in college basketball, Marquette will be in the top 20.
Mm-hmm.
Not top 40, not top 50, like a lot of other teams in this league. They spend money. No. They spend money. Guess what? I don't know. I don't have any direct sources at all on this, but what I will say is this. There's got to be people that have been part of the proud tradition of that program that will say, whatever needs to happen, we will give you what you need. Similar to what a Creighton is. Not every Big East school has that advantage. But like Marquette and Creighton, they've won a lot. They've had unbelievable coaching, tremendous fan base, all of those things. But they also are able to give their players a certain amount that other schools cannot meet.
Yeah.
So it's a blend, Mark. I think it's a blend. And I think they've got – nobody's saying that he has to take 10 transfers. And look, he might not take one. And if that's what he wants to do, then, like I said, in this sport, with a program of Marquette's magnitude, you can't have repeat seasons like what this one has been thus far. But, it's easy to have a referendum when things aren't going well. But it was easy last year for people to bury Dan Hurley, and he still took the national champions to the wire at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. But it's easy when people can kick a dog while they're down. But the fact is, the Marquette, to me, this idea that they would have to play Moneyball just seems so crazy to me, because they've never given that type of makeup as a program. The fact is, they were counting on certain pieces to deliver, particularly in their front court, that have not played anywhere close to what I think they believed in.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair. You mentioned having a rational discussion. I'm going to put a clip on that I don't think you are going to be super rational about, but I want you to describe it to me in Big East terms. Okay?
Okay.
On the direct snap, he was supposed to pitch it, but didn't and couldn't. And now he's going to have to throw it, and he does, and it's incomplete.
I don't know.
John's my friend, Mark. Like, I can't, I get.
I was watching this game. I didn't even know we were having you on today. I was watching it yesterday, the end of the game. You're waiting for the next game to come on, and I was just like, oh, they tie it. They're going to tie it. Cool. And then they went to this play, and my wife, who's a big football fan, I looked over at her, and I went, have you ever seen anything like that before? And she went, no. I just wanted to hear rant for me. I want to hear your thoughts.
Just a total cluster of an operation. And how do you take the ball out of a quarterback who had thrown for 350 plus yards in the game? How do you take the ball out of his hands? I mean, there's no rhyme nor reason to the Browns. The only thing they helped was their draft positioning. Shedeur Sanders, the fact that they have been playing Dylan Gabriel for as long as they have been playing him over this guy, the fact that they took Gabriel in the 3rd round, I'm also like, I get the dad angle, but I got to be honest with you. Coach Prime hasn't caused one issue with the Browns at all since he took over. So the irony in all this is that I don't know if the Browns found their quarterback. I do know this. He's by far played the position the best of anybody else. He was not the reason why they lost. And what team takes the ball out of their quarterback's hands going for 2? Who does that? Who does that?
The Browns.
Kevin Stefanski has won Coach of the Year twice. And how has he fallen off this much? Is it a Cleveland curse? I don't know, but I know this much. It's time for a change. You can't run those types of plays in a professional football game week in and week out and expect to keep your job. It's indefensible. I'm done defending him. So the writing's on the wall. They have to reset. I don't know how you take the ball out of it. This is not 2009 when the Wildcat was cool and we all tried it in Madden. It's 2025. Why are you running Wildcat on a 2-point try? They know that you're either doing a trick pass play or that you're likely running. Whatever that was messier. Man, that was I-95 on Christmas Eve at around 4:15. What a joke.
Yes.
What a joke.
I agree.
That was Providence, UConn in the stands right behind Dan Hurley's bench.
Yes.
It was. That was, it was ugly. That was Creighton and UConn fans tweeting about Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Yeah.
Or the Tyler Kolek can't read bit. That's what that was in Big East.
That might be the best one.
One big hot mess.
John, there were idiots.
You like to add anything?
Well, John, let me apologize for Mark there. No,
he's some co-host you have.
Glad to do that. I love it. No, speaking of idiots though, there were idiots yesterday, John, after the Creighton, Nebraska game, tweeting about Mac shouldn't be the coach there anymore. I mean, it's just
those people are ridiculous.
Insanity.
He's the best Creighton coach of all time. He's one of the great college basketball coaches you're ever going to find. If you're a Creighton fan and you're mad at your head coach, you should not be. You should not be because he has changed the standard of that program. They weren't making Sweet 16s every year before he got there. Certainly weren't in the Big East, and I know that has a lot to do with a lot of different people, but he elevated them. He's been one of the biggest benefits in the reconfigured Big East because his teams win. His teams win, and it wasn't just about his son, who's a phenomenal player in person. It's about being an elite recruiter, a man of integrity. He's a man of integrity, not a cheater, a hell of a coach. He could X's and O's with anybody. Mm-hmm. So anybody that's questioning Greg McDermott is an absolute fool because he's one of the best coaches that I know. Plain and simple. That is right there.
I love it. That's a great sound bit. I appreciate you coming on simply for that, John.
That's ridiculous that anybody would say that about him. You could be mad about losing a rivalry game, but to suggest that he should be the coach. Did you watch what he did in NCAA tournaments at Pat Kelsey in Louisville last March? Ran circles around him. Did you watch them in the second round game? Were they less talented team? Let's be honest with ourselves here. Then they hung in with Auburn for a little while. Yep. So they should have made the Final Four. Had the officials adjudicated it a little bit better, they would have. I didn't like that call. I still don't like that call.
You and me both.
Well, before we go, I have to thank you for coming on, and I also would like to thank you for using the word adjudicated in talking about officials because it's a really nice way to say they blew a call. It's a beautiful, beautiful way to say it. But no, John, seriously, we really appreciate you. We love your work, and you're the king. We should give you the crown from our Big East Energy. You're the king of the Big East, bro.
I'll just say this, Mark and Casey, that means a lot. And, like when I think about the king of the Big East, I think of Dave Gavitt, who built the thing in 1979. I think of all the unbelievable coaches and players. So, for me, like when people say that, it's deeply humbling. It's not at all why I do this. It's not why I'm joining you guys right now. I join you guys because I enjoy your work and your friends. And, I think one thing you can say, this league's passion is incredible. The fans are outstanding, and they get in fights and whatnot. It's good. It's good for the sport, and it's great for the league. And like I was thinking about it, even though you sit here and you say, like the league is here, there, everywhere. We all know when Providence and Butler come on Saturday afternoon, it's Big East basketball, and our eyes are going to be on it.
Yep.
And like that's what I love about this league. This league gave me an entry point. I'm forever grateful for this conference. I'm not at NBC Sports right now. I certainly wouldn't have gotten a look at Fox Sports without the Big East. The Big East is in my soul. And so it's always going to be the case. Somebody tweeted at me when I made the career move over the summer of like, oh, are you done? Or what are you doing? Or I'll tell you right now, my ass will be behind the basket at the Big East tournament from start to finish. I mean, I'll be covering the first leg of it because we at Peacock and NBC Sports Network had the first 5 games, and then so on. And what I can say to every Big East fan is, every time you hear or watch a game, that I have the privilege of being on, 'cause it's a privilege to cover the league. It really is. It's a Super Bowl, because that's how the fans in the Big East are, and they deserve that. That passion should always come through. That's the lifeblood of this league. We can talk about the schools, the coaches, the players, but the fans make this league what it is. It's why the Big East Energy Network is just getting started.
John, you're the best, man.
You're the best.
You're the best.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me. Happy holidays to everybody.
See you next weekend.
That's right, Casey. See you next weekend. Thanks, guys.
All right. That was the great John Fanta of NBC and Peacock. Thank you for joining us on Big East Energy Weekly. We hope you like, subscribe, download wherever you get your episodes. Make sure you check some of the shorts that we're going to put out of John and him being on the show, and make sure you kind of and tell people about the Big East Energy Network, because look, we're just getting started. We're not going anywhere, and we're excited about the rest of this season. Go Big East. Let's get it.